Part 192. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1911. I gently took Su Tianqian out of the coffin and handed it to Zhao Mian. To resurrect Su Tianqian, a very complicated ceremony is required. Of course, I don't need to do these things, Zhao Mian can just do them. I took one last look at Su Tianqian, and then lay down in the sky coffin. Zhao Mian came to the coffin, looked at me quietly, and said, "Lu Su, along the way, I have witnessed your growth and everything about you. And you made me understand who I am and the meaning of my existence. If there is an afterlife, I will still be willing to pave the way for you." I smiled at Zhao Mian and said, "Really? Then let's look forward to the next life." Zhao Mian slowly pushed the coffin lid forward. I looked up at the night sky, filled with stars. The scene before me seemed to take me back to the first time I entered the coffin. At that time, my mother took my hand and said, "Don't be afraid, Mom is here." At this moment, I realized that the beginning was the end, and my ending was already determined at that moment. The coffin lid slowly closed, and the stars in the sky gradually disappeared from my eyes, until finally, I fell into endless darkness. The sky was dark and cold, but I was extremely happy. Because everything I lose will gradually come back, isn't it a happy thing to be able to sacrifice for the one you love? As time went by, my consciousness gradually dissipated until I finally knew nothing. Suddenly one day, I gradually regained consciousness, but I couldn't move my hands or feet or open my eyes. What's going on? Am I dead? This scene makes me puzzled. It takes a lot of time for me to wake up, usually a few minutes, sometimes more than 10 minutes. On this day, I woke up again and suddenly found that I had appeared outside the coffin. I struggled to stand up and walk towards the sky coffin. What the hell is going on? I was extremely confused. Just when I was about to push the coffin away, I suddenly found a note next to the coffin. I picked up the note and there were a few paragraphs on it. "Lu Su, when you read this, I think you are already awake. You stayed in the sky coffin for 6 full years. During these 6 years, I kept looking for ways to rescue you. Hard work pays off and I finally found the solution. You and I are one, and I only need a specific spell to take your place in the coffin. Lu Su, you can't die. You have your wife, daughter, friends, brothers. And I am alone, with nothing. It's only fitting that I enter the coffin in your place." The letter has been written very clearly. Zhao Mian entered the coffin in my place. Although I don't know what method he used, he succeeded. I continued reading. "I, Zhao Mian, have always been a wicked person. I have killed countless people and done all kinds of bad things. Death is my only escape. Don't be sad for me, and don't try to replace me in the sky coffin, because I have sealed the sky coffin, and even you can't open it. As you said, the reincarnations of the gods have appeared in the human world one after another. Everything is going according to your and my plans. You are the way of heaven, and your existence will make this world run in balance. But I'm sorry, I can't interfere with what happens next." End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1912. But it's also a very comfortable thing for me. I've been doing things for you all my life. If I die, you have to let me stop, right? I'm just talking nonsense. To be honest, I want to face everything with you, but I don't have this chance anymore. Go back to Jiyuntang, go back to your home, go back to your destination. Su Tianqian is still waiting for you. The letter is gone here." I don't know when, my eyes became red. The friendship between Zhao Mian and I is already very deep. He took care of me in the sky coffin for 8 years and accompanied me on my final journey. In the end, he used his life to fulfill me. In the beginning, we were enemies. Later, We became brothers. I put the letter away and then took a look at the coffin. Zhao Mian, don't worry, since I won't let you stay in the coffin for too long. You should have your own life. Even if I change the way of heaven, I will give you a chance to reincarnate. You will have a new life. I left the coffin. When I returned to the human world, the warm sunshine shone on my body, making me feel warm all over. However, it was the middle of winter, just like the day Su Tianqian left. I don't know where I am. After asking around, I found out that I am now in Kunlun Mountain. Zhao Mian was very considerate and prepared money for me so that I could buy a ticket to go home. I got on the train to Tianfu City. I looked at the changing scenery outside the window and sighed for the rest of my life. Everyone's life is full of ups and downs. I have gained a lot and lost a lot. But, in the end, I had my own home. The next night, I returned to Tianfu City. When I got off the train, heavy snow fell in the sky. I sped up and rushed towards Jiyuntang. I came to that familiar street. At this moment, the whole street is covered with snow, and the dim lights shine on the snow. Everything looks so dreamy and beautiful. I walked in the direction of Jiyuntang, and behind me were rows of footprints, just like the path I had taken in my life. As I walked, I saw Jiyuntang. I also saw a familiar figure. Su Tianqian stood in front of Jiyuntang. She was wearing a white down jacket and a red scarf around her neck. The cold wind blew her hair. In front of Su Tianqian stood a little girl wearing a red cotton coat. The little girl looks 8 or 9 years old, but she is slim and graceful at a young age. Mom. Do you think the snowman I made looks good? Lu Ling raised her pretty face and asked Su Tianqian. Su Tianxian's face was full of tenderness, and she knelt down next to Lu Ling and tightened the scarf around her neck. It looks good, but is the snowman missing a scarf? Lu Ling was startled, and then she answered crisply, yes. It will definitely look better if you have a scarf. I'll get it. As he said this, Lu Ling was about to go back to the house. Lu Ling, use Mom's. With that said, Su Tianqian untied the scarf around his neck. When Lu Ling reached out to pick up the scarf, she suddenly saw me out of the corner of her eye. I stood still and didn't move. Lu Ling stared at me blankly for a long time. Seeing Lu Ling staring straight at one place, Su Tianqian subconsciously followed Lu Ling's line of sight. I saw her. She saw me too. 4 eyes facing each other, a glance for thousands of years. Su Tianqian stood up slowly, her vision blurred by tears. Mom. Why are you crying? Who is that uncle? Why do I feel so familiar? I walked slowly towards Su Tianqian. I came to Su Tianqian, took the red scarf from her hand, and wrapped it around the snowman. After doing this, I looked at Su Tianqian with a smile. Tianqian, I'm back. Su Tianqian had already burst into tears. She knelt down and said to Lu Ling, he is your father. Dad. Lu Ling looked at me curiously. Su Tianqian threw herself into my arms and held me tightly. It'll be good to come back, it'll be good to come back. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1913. After I returned to Jiyuntang, I saw colorful butterflies, Huaxiu, Miao Fengluan, and Lu Hangsuan. They haven't changed, just like before. Before I knew it, 3 years had passed. I sat at the door of Jiyuntang and basked in the sun. Lu Su. Look at you. Why are you sunbathing like an old man? Didn't you promise that Lu Ling and I would go to the amusement park? Kadi came to me and pointed at me. Huaxiu also came to my side and said, Brother, although Sister Tianqian is pregnant, you can't always stay at home to take care of her, right? You take her out for a walk. I looked back at Cai Dai and Huaxiu and said, you two are either pointing fingers at me or pointing fingers at me all day long. I have the lowest status in this family. Cai Dai snorted softly. Humph. I knew you were still lying down. I smiled bitterly and stood up. At this time, Su Tianqian also walked down from the second floor. Her belly bulged slightly, she came to me and gently held my hand, saying, let's go, Xiao Su, come with me for a walk. I agreed, and then left Ji Yuntang with Su Tianqian. We walked down the street. Su Tianqian said quietly, Xiao Su, if you think about it carefully, Zhao Mian should be born too, right? I stopped, looked at the sunshine above my head, and replied, yes, but he is in some trouble, and I will have to help him when the time comes. Su Tianqian said, you modified the law of heaven without authorization and allowed Zhao Mian to reincarnate. Naturally, he will be in trouble. However, with you here, he will definitely be in peace. I looked at Su Tianqian and said, I originally didn't want Zhao Mian to go on the road of life, but if he doesn't go now, he won't be able to survive. However, based on my understanding of him, he will definitely be able to survive in this Zwala world of gods. Stand out from the era. Su Tianqian smiled. I looked at Su Tianxuan's belly and said with a smile, Tianqian, after this child is born, do you plan to have another one? Su Tianqian snuggled next to me and said, I listen to you. I smiled and Su Tianqian faced the morning sun and walked on the sun-filled streets. I know that the morning sun is fleeting and the night will fall from the sky. I see those who are slowly moving forward in this world. It is a winning attitude, just like light penetrating the darkness and the breeze blowing away the fog. My story is over, but the story of life continues. End of book. That's all for The Sky Coffin, which is the author's first million-word novel. I have been writing this book on and off for more than 2 years, and I am very grateful to everyone for your company. Some people gave up the book for some reasons, but some people persisted until the end. Of course, life is a train moving forward. Someone will always get off the station, and someone will always reach the end. Anyway, thank you all for your support. Although Tian Coffin is over, Zhao Mian's story will be with everyone. The author has signed a new book contract with Mao Novel, titled The Beauty of the Dragon Corpse. This book tells what happened after Zhao Mian's reincarnation. Like The Sky Coffin, it is a supernatural horror novel. It can also be regarded as a continuation of Sky Coffin. Readers who like it can take a look. After changing the website, this pen name can no longer be used. You can go to Mao to search for my pen name Zhongtian and follow it. The 70,000-word Dragon Corpse Beauty will be put on the app and will be available on the author's homepage. Of course, I will also find time to write a few extras. Everyone. The mountains are high and the road is far, we are destined to meet again. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1914. Day and Night. This is the 3rd year since Su Tianqian left Tian Coffin. In the past 3 years, Su Tianqian has never mentioned Lu Su in front of others. She is still living her life. Rest at sunset and work at sunrise. The days are so ordinary that they can't be ordinary anymore, as if nothing has happened. Others thought Su Tianqian had accepted Lu Su's death. But in fact, missing is silent. With Su Tianxuan's character, it was impossible for her to cry and complain in front of her friends. She could only bury her longing for Lu Su in her heart. Every time in the dead of night, she would cry silently. That night, Su Tianqian coaxed Lu Ling to sleep as usual. Lu Ling is 4 years old this year. As she grows taller and older, she can call her mother and share some things with her. Lu Ling's personality is very similar to that of Su Tianqian, gentle and kind, especially her eyes as calm as water, as if she is indifferent to everything in the world, but in fact, Lu Ling is a girl with a delicate mind. She won't bring her emotions to others. For example, she never asked anything about Lu Su in front of Su Tianxian. Because Lu Ling knew that every night, her mother would cry alone. Just when Lu Ling was drowsy, there were sudden knocks on the door in the lobby on the first floor. Su Tianxian got up and went to the hall to open the door. The door opened, and a familiar figure came into Su Tianxian's eyes. Xiao, Xiao Su. Su Tianxian asked tentatively with a trembling voice. The man turned around and smiled at Su Tianxian and said, I came here twice in total, and you got me wrong both times. A look of loneliness flashed across Su Tianxian's eyes, and she stepped aside. Zhao Mian entered the room and sat down. Su Tianxian poured a glass of water for Zhao Mian and asked calmly, Is there anything you want to see me for this time? Zhao Mian picked up the water glass and took a sip, then stretched and said, There is something, but it is not a big deal. Lu Su has something that I have asked me to give to you. Su Tianxian's plain eyes finally showed ripples. What? Zhao Mian took out a diary from his pocket. He gave this to me during his lifetime. Let me find a suitable opportunity to give it to you. I have been busy in the past 3 years, so I forgot about this matter. Su Tianxian stretched out his hand tremblingly and took the diary. The diary is hers. After Ji Yuntang became an abandoned area, she searched for it for a long time but could not find it. Zhao Mian stood up and said, Okay, I've given the things to you, and it's time for me to leave. Su Tianxian looked at Zhao Mian's leaving figure and said, Zhao Mian, what have you been doing in the past 3 years? Zhao Mian stopped, turned around and said with a smile, What to do? Of course it is to do good things for others. Try to make up for the mistakes I have made. Su Tianxian looked at Zhao Mian and said, Zhao Mian, you have changed a lot. Zhao Mian smiled, shrugged, and said, People change, but Su Tianxian, you don't seem to have changed much after so many years. Su Tianxian lowered his eyes. Yes, people change. It doesn't change, only you know. When Zhao Mian saw that Su Tianxian was silent, he waved his hand towards Su Tianxian and said, Okay, I'm leaving. We'll see you again by fate. After saying that, Zhao Mian turned and left. Su Tianxian took the diary and walked towards the second floor. Just as she turned around, she saw a small figure flashing past the stairs. Su Tianxian stopped and lowered his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking of writing. After a while, Su Tianxian came to the study and opened the diary. She also has the habit of keeping a diary. The reason why she kept a diary was because she was afraid of forgetting everything after accepting the inheritance. By writing a diary, she could regain her past memories. However, retrieving memories is retrieving memories. If she really accepted the inheritance at that time, then not only will she forget Lu Su, but she will also lose all her feelings. This is why she would rather die than forget Lu Su. Su Tianxian slowly opened the diary. The first half is a diary written by her. When she saw the day she met Lu Su, she couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth slightly. The more she read, the sadder she felt. Unconsciously, tears wet her eyes. The things recorded in the diary are vivid in my mind. But the person in the diary was not with her. Xiao Su, I can't accept life without you. I thought about going with you. But, we still have Lu Ling. If I leave, she will be lonely. Su Tianxian did not expect that the words that she once persuaded Lu Su to live would now be applied to her. She continued to turn back. The following words were written by Lu Su to her. Tianxian, I'm sorry that I peeked into your diary. But, as your husband, it's not impossible for me to peek into your diary, right? So I decided that during your absence, I will secretly continue to write a diary for you. When you meet me in the future, you will also know what I did during your absence. This passage was written in the days after she accepted the inheritance. Su Tianqian continued to turn back. The following content is what happened in the days when Su Tianqian was away. Lu Su wrote every little thing in it. Unknowingly, Su Tianqian was crying so hard. Fool! Who allowed you to scribble in my diary? Su Tianqian turned the last page tremblingly. Tianqian, everything is over. The things I have been pursuing have been successfully completed. If you think about it carefully, I have experienced a lot since I left home. I have cried, laughed, been hurt, and been tired. I sometimes wonder why I have to bear such a heavy burden, as I am just an ordinary person. There have been times when I thought about giving up. But when I think of you and everyone, I can only go on bravely. If there's anything I can't let go of, it's only you and Lu Ling. But fortunately, things have turned around. I will lie in a coffin in the sky, just like you and I did when we first met. Tianqian, don't be sad, and don't suppress the emotions in your heart. I know you too well. After I leave, you will do the same as before, trying your best to act like nothing happened. You have to know that you are also an ordinary person, and joy, anger, sorrow, and joy are normal emotional expressions. Of course, you can think that I am tired and just looking for a place to rest for a while. Tianqian, I'm sorry, I can't fulfill the promise I made. You can see the thousands of mountains and rivers that I have broken my promise for. Su Tianqian burst into tears when she saw this. Also, don't leave Lu Ling at home alone, you have to take her with you. Now, I have become the way of heaven, which is equivalent to becoming the breeze on earth and the warm sun in winter. If you miss me, blow the wind, and the wind will dry the tears from your eyes for me. Except for Wushan Fi Yun. Don't think about it, peace of mind. The diary ends here. Su Tianqian held the diary gently in his arms and choked with sobs in a low voice, Xiao Su, don't worry, I will go and see it for you. Su Tianqian calmed down and returned to the room with her diary. Lu Ling lay on the bed pretending to sleep. Lu Ling. Su Tianqian called softly. Lu Ling opened her eyes leisurely. Mother. Su Tianqian gently held Lu Ling in his arms. Lu Ling, I'm sorry, you must really want to know everything about your father. Mom will tell you now. When Lu Ling heard this, she buried her face in Su Tianxuan's chest and choked with sobs, okay. In the past 3 years, Su Tianqian did not tell Lu Ling anything about Lu Su. It's also because I haven't come out yet. And now that she had come out, it was time to tell Lu Ling everything. Later, Su Tianqian held Lu Ling in her arms and told Lu Ling everything about her and Lu Su's acquaintance and love. The next morning, Su Tianqian took Lu Ling on their journey. Before leaving, Su Tianqian looked back at Ji Yuntang. Xiao Su, I will go to see the thousands of mountains and rivers that you have broken your promise for you. Here is a side story. The new book Dragon Corpse Beauty has been released on Kamau. The book tells what happened after Zhao Mian was reincarnated. If you like it, you can support it and just search it on Kamau. Let You Catch Monsters, You and the Fox Monster Get Along will also be resumed and updated. Don't worry, of course, I will write about the extras when I have time, such as the daily life of Lu Su and Su Tianqian, and Zhao Mian's previous story. End of chapter.